Hello all, and welcome to episode 2 of this multi-part FNaF Ruin theory series. If you're just tuning in, you can watch the first episode by clicking the card on the top right of the screen, and if you want to watch the full series, there's a link to the playlist in the description box right below this video. In the last episode, we looked very closely at the Mimic, solving its backstory and its current place in the security breach / ruin games. We ended off that video asking 3 questions. How did the Mimic gain access to the Pizzaplex in the first place? Where does Vanny and Gregory fit into this story? And is there more happening here than we think? In this video, we're going to answer all 3 of these questions. But to do so, this episode will need to be the longest in the series, so buckle up and enjoy the ride. We are going to start with the very first question. This question is very difficult to answer, because there's nothing specifically hinting at how this happened. Instead, we're going to have to fill in the blanks using multiple different events in both Security Breach and the books. There are a few things we know from the last episode of this series. For one, we absolutely know that the Mimic was able to influence this Mega Pizzaplex using the animatronics' personalities and the Vanny system to prove this. Now, we also know that this Mimic has been locked away and isolated for a very long time, so how could it have gained access to the Pizzaplex while locked away? I'm not sure. I mean, wait, what if we are thinking about this all wrong? What if we shouldn't be looking at it in the present? What if we should be looking at the past? What if the Mimic already had influence of the Pizzaplex a long time ago? If we're going to be looking at the past, we will need to use the books heavily. So just remember the disclaimer from episode 1. We're not saying these events truly happened, we're just using details from these events to support the idea of what the Mimic is able to do. Back when Fazbear Entertainment acquired the Mimic, they had analyzed and copied the code running that original endo called Mimic 1. This code was used in many places afterwards in an attempt to cut down how much time they spent programming the individual animatronic AIs. This program was eventually used in the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience, which had manifested into what we all know as Glitch Trap. Now, we mentioned that the old Fazbear engineer's journal said that the Mimic endos were destroyed, but that's just it. The Mimic endos were destroyed. The Mimic 1 program and all of its connections remained intact, as we can see in the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience, the personalities of the animatronics and robots in Security Breach, and the Tales of the Pizzaplex books. There are so many stories about a program connecting with your brain and or copying your surroundings, such as Under Construction and The Monty Within, that we know for sure they couldn't isolate the Mimic 1 program. If you are unfamiliar with these stories, don't worry, we will talk about them in just a second. We know for sure that the Mimic 1 program couldn't be isolated, but we don't really understand the true power of this program. To do so, we need to look at 2 stories from the books. We need to go back to the Storyteller, and we also need to turn to Tiger Rock. Let's start in chronological order with the Storyteller. We mentioned in the last episode that the Storyteller showed a fake tree that was running the Mimic 1 software controlling a Mega Pizzaplex and negatively affecting the animatronics and electronics as a side effect. But there's one piece of this story that we didn't look at yet, which will greatly help us here. In this story, we see that the tree itself wasn't running the Mimic 1 program, but something inside the tree was running it. It was a tiger head with 1 blue eye and 1 green eye, with 4 arms coming out of its neck. This head was connected to the tree using fiber optic cables, which would travel through all aspects of the Mega Pizzaplex. This tiger head may seem familiar to some of you up-to-date FNaF fans. This tiger head that they described is the exact same as the tiger we see on the cover of Tiger Rock. Now, Fazbear Entertainment had clearly planned for a tiger animatronic if they already have its head, but in the Tiger Rock story, we can actually see this tiger animatronic being put to use. In this story, our main character Kai puts on an AR headset in a booth that is meant to show you what the Mega Pizzaplex will look like in 10 years. In this demonstration, we can see a tiger animatronic that is able to control many aspects of the Pizzaplex, similar to the Storyteller that was running the Mimic 1 program. We know that Tiger Rock and the Storyteller are connected and can both control the Pizzaplex, but there's even more. The main character is a native Hawaiian who now mainly speaks English after their family moved, but when he goes into the AR system, Tiger Rock speaks to Kai in Hawaiian. None of the other animatronics or people do this. It's only Tiger Rock. The Tiger Rock that is already implied to be running the Mimic 1 program by being shown in the Storyteller tree as the source of the Mimic 1 system is now the only animatronic that can recreate this language by analyzing the person in the headset. Not only this, but in the story, it is also mentioned that Tiger Rock studies Kai with far more interest than any other animatronic ever had. This analysis and copying is exactly what the Mimic 1 program was created for. With all this information that we gathered, we can say without a shadow of a doubt that the Mimic 1 program is still alive and active. The old Endo down in the Pizzaplex already had influence over the Pizzaplex and other aspects of Fazbear Entertainment, and the company knew it. They continue to use this program in the various virtual experiences that we see in the books and the game, and they know exactly what the Mimic is capable of. This is why they use the Nexus system to counteract anything the Mimic may do. There would be no reason for why they would put this virtual security guard down in the old pizza place right next to the Mimic unless they knew what the Mimic is capable of. While I know this was already a lot of information, we have so much more to discuss. If the Mimic already had the ability to influence the Pizzaplex, but then it was removed due to the Nexus program, how did it regain this influence? How is it able to communicate with Cassie and take over the Helpy system? This question is a lot harder to answer, so let's take it back a bit. Right now, we're going to look at how the Mimic 1 program can influence and seemingly possess people. We mentioned not too long ago that Fazbear Entertainment continues to use the Mimic 1 program in the various virtual experiences we see in the books and the games, but let's really talk about that. We've already discussed the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience, or FNaF VR Help Wanted, and how the Mimic 1 program was influencing that, but there are so many other experiences we need to talk about. In the books, we learn about these virtual reality and augmented reality booths and experiences inside various different pizzaplexes. These booths are always open to the public unless they are under construction or renovation, and there are multiple stories where we actually see a character using them. We can really see these booths in 3 different stories: Tiger Rock, The Monty Within, and Under Construction. We already started discussing Tiger Rock a little, so let's start with that one. In this story, the Storyteller tree was out of commission, so instead, our main characters went to the AR booth that was advertising a special one-day simulation of an idea for how the Pizzaplex will look in 10 years. Once Kai puts the headset on, he witnesses a new Pizzaplex with the Tiger Rock animatronic. Tiger Rock starts to get more violent, almost crushing his arm completely right before the experience ends. Kai, with a bruised arm, runs home but is constantly terrorized by Tiger Rock. Cats, clocks, and even owls begin transforming into visions of Tiger Rock. He then wakes up from the VR booth, realizing he never actually left the first time. The booth had locked up, trapping Kai inside for 5 hours. That night, as he goes home, Tiger Rock appears and rips Kai's arms off, fleeing back into the night, taking the arms with him. The next story, The Monty Within, we see our main character, Kane, play the new game called Fazcade Tag Team. This is a virtual food fight game where you play against someone on the opposite side of the Pizzaplex. In this game, you play with 2 different animatronics. One that you can pick on your own, but another is an animatronic that syncs with your brain. Kane picked Orville Elephant, but also gets Monty chosen for him as the animatronic that syncs with his brain. While they play, Kane realizes that Monty is mimicking his exact movements and has a glowing golden circle above his head that shows the oscillating brain waves of Kane's biological AI. Kane continues to play the game, once again getting paired up with Monty, who even recognizes him. Eventually, he short-circuits the game and hears Monty inside his head, and eventually, Monty is able to take control of his body, ending with him killing Kane. This story is very important because it shows exactly how the Mimic 1 program can take in information from a living person. It analyzes the quote-unquote biological AI that Kane had previously studied, also known as the left brain, and uses the facts contained to begin mimicking it. While we are still unsure exactly how the program can analyze this, the most important thing in this story is the fact that it can. We know for sure that the Mimic 1 program is able to analyze the brain and copy it, which is the proof we need that the Mimic 1 program is also involved in these other games and not some other program. The final story is under construction. In this story, our main character, Maya, runs over to an AR unit called The World Celebrates You, only to see that it is currently closed and under construction. Maya ignores the warning and puts on the sensory headband. In this experience, she is having a large birthday party with everyone in the Pizzaplex celebrating her, and her entire family joins in. Afterwards, she's on the brink of death, not realizing she never left the experience, being slowly suffocated. The main important idea in this story is the AR unit itself. Similarly to Tiger Rock, this headband was able to show Maya information only she would know, which in this case would be her entire family. This headset doesn't show Maya's family to every patron that goes into the experience. This is just Maya's experience. In all these stories, we don't just see the Mimic 1 interact with these characters through the headset, but we also see it somewhat possess them. It seems to show strange hallucinations, as in Tiger Rock, but also fully take over the body, as we see in The Monty Within. This is a very important step in what we will talk about next, which is Gregory and Vanessa. These two are our main characters in Security Breach, and are clearly connected to the Mimic, but now we need to figure out how they are connected, and to what extent. Let's start by looking at Vanessa. Vanessa started off as a beta tester hired to play the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience. She begins to experience the Mimic, and as we hear her voice as an Easter egg at the end of the game, we can see that the Mimic has fully manipulated her. We know that the Mimic 1 program is able to influence and possess people through headsets, so it is very clear that Vanessa took a part of the Mimic with her after beta testing. According to one of the duffel bag messages in Security Breach, Vanessa was hired through a recommendation from the top without having any relevant background experience, which was clearly influenced by the Mimic, as no one else would know about her, and we already learned earlier in this episode that the Mimic has access to basically the entirety of Fazbear Entertainment at this point. Vanessa gets hired at Fazbear Funtime Service. At this point in the story, Easter eggs in Security Breach start to tell us quite a bit about what happens next. Throughout the game, you can find 16 different retro CDs. Listening to the CDs reveals a therapy session between two clients. One is known as Client 71, and the other is known as Client 46. Client 71 is Vanessa. Fazbear Entertainment outsourced this company to monitor their employees. From the CDs, we hear that Vanessa is in contact with someone or something, sending encrypted messages between them. In these, it seems that Vanessa is being manipulated, to which she brushes off. Throughout these sessions, she gets quieter and becomes more disconnected. Eventually, we hear about her buying fake fur for a costume she's working on, but Vanessa herself refuses to talk about it and says it's a secret. Eventually, Vanessa gets transferred from her current job at Fazbear Funtime Service to the Mega Pizzaplex we all know her from. While we don't know too much about her time in the Pizzaplex before security breach, we do know one big thing. To find this, we need to look at the Afton ending. Now, a quick disclaimer. We will discuss the reality of these endings in the next video, but for now, I will say that we will not take any of these alternative endings as quote-unquote real, but more as what-if scenarios. The quote we will look at from this ending is way before we reach the main Afton ending room. We are only going to look at one quote while descending the wooden scaffolding in the hole that contained the blob. While walking down, Freddy says this.
I know what this is. I have been here before. She brought me here. I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path. I did not want to, but I had no choice. Now I have a choice. I have changed. My friends are here. They are so angry, confused. I am not me.
Using this clip as supporting evidence, it would seem that the Mimic actively attempted to break out of its room using Vanny and the other animatronics to help it. Now, once again, while this is all fine to say, this still only explains the what the Mimic did with its minimal control over the Pizzaplex, not the how the Mimic got control back. We looked at the what through Vanny, but now we need to look at the how through Gregory. Gregory's history is not really shown in the base security breach game, so instead, we will need to use the story GGY and the retro CDs to help us put his story together. First, we will start with GGY. Gregory is a kid who seems to have a complicated childhood, but spends a lot of time at Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. He plays many arcade games and is very good at them, as his signature, GGY, can be seen holding the top score of many arcade games. He's not just good at arcade games, but he seems to be a young hacker. He altered his play pass to allow it to bypass security clearance at the Pizzaplex. He doesn't just stop there, but he's also been able to gain the control of the animatronics and electronics. Now, Gregory is also getting some help and seeing some therapists. The company he uses just so happens to be the same company used by Fazbear Entertainment, meaning that Gregory and Vanessa are helped by the same people. It is clear when listening to these that Gregory is Client 46. While in these sessions, he seems very different to the Gregory we all know. He's silent, malicious. He rarely shows any signs of joy unless it's related to a rabbit or directed towards someone else's pain. His therapist begins to confront him with the information she receives from Fazbear Entertainment. They found Gregory on the cameras hacking into the Pizzaplex, messing with all the animatronics. The way that the therapist confronts him, using the pain that the technicians have to deal with to show why Gregory is doing a bad thing, fills him with joy. This isn't the only time Fazbear will confront Gregory. In the final CD, we hear about a very bad digital attack that Gregory threw against the Pizzaplex. He made the robots much more eerie than entertaining, but it doesn't stop there. The attack went system-wide, infecting every single machine. The weirdest part is, when the techs tried to remove the glitch, the source of the glitch shifted. Gregory finds great joy in this, but the therapist considers this extremely concerning. Now, clearly, this Gregory is very different from the Gregory we play as in the game, but how could it be so? The changes in emotion, actions he's doing, and feelings towards rabbits, these are very similar ideas of the Mimic. But how could the Mimic have even got into Gregory? Well, we mentioned that Gregory spent a lot of time at the Pizzaplex, and we know from earlier that the Mimic program can easily infect someone if they so much as wear a headset containing it. The Pizzaplexes are full of AR and VR experiences, so the Mimic being able to possess Gregory is the easiest question to answer. The hardest one is how Gregory could have possibly gone back to himself. While this question is one we can't directly answer, we could figure out some things to help lead us to this question. There are a few things I want to look at. Number 1 revolves around the reason Gregory is at the Pizzaplex in the first place. Right when Gregory reaches the door at 6 a.m., he says this:
"If I leave now, nothing will change, will it? There will be more disappearances."
Yes.
Gregory is initially there to investigate disappearances, so he knows that something is going on. We can get something else from the very beginning of the game, where Gregory says these lines.
"It's her. She cut you off. She's not going to let you call for help until she finds me. Shh! I hear footsteps."
That is the security guard. She can help.
No, I don't trust her.
Why not?
I don't know who she is, but she's trying to get me.
Even though Freddy is telling him that she is the security guard and can help, he already knows that something is not right about her. He knew before he even saw her in the game that something is not right. The final piece of supporting evidence is related to one of the endings. Once again, we will discuss the endings in the next video, so we will explain why we are using this specific ending as evidence then, but for now, just follow me on using it. In Security Breach, if you play all the Princess Quest games, you save Vanessa. She drops her Vanny mask and leaves the Pizzaplex with Gregory. Now, strangely, Gregory is able to know about the Princess Quest games and its relation to Vanessa. This isn't just a video game trope of the player understanding a strange feature. Gregory is able to understand this, as right when we finish the ending, Gregory is immediately looking outside to make sure what he did worked. Gregory understands the Mimic and its effect on people as seen in these moments, but using this ending to support our theory, Gregory knows how to break the Mimic's grasp on somebody. In this ending, Vanessa doesn't slowly recover from the damage done by the Mimic. She immediately drops her mask and becomes Vanessa once again, with Gregory knowing this fact and roaming the Pizzaplex freely. While we don't know exactly how Gregory broke out of the Mimic's grasp, we know that he has to, based on the vast shift in personality from the retro CDs to Security Breach, and the fact that he understands the Mimic so well and understands exactly how to break someone away from the Mimic. Gregory and Vanessa were manipulated and possessed by the Mimic as it slowly worked to break itself out of its closed-off room, but Gregory ruined his plans by breaking himself and Vanessa free. On a little side note, we know that the masks can help the Mimic influence the user's mind, which helps to greatly explain what we see when we wear the Vanny mask in Ruin. All of the things that we witness pertain specifically to Cassie. This is why we can hear Security Breach lines from these animatronics while wearing the Vanny mask due to the Mimic's manipulation. It's not physically mimicking these animatronics, only auditorily as it syncs with Cassie's brain. Now, once again, these are all great things for us to understand, and it helps clarify the Mimic's influence on Security Breach, but we still didn't answer the big question of this episode. How did the Mimic regain its influence over the Pizzaplex? Well, we did kind of answer this question. Gregory. In the final retro CD, we hear that he launched an attack that took over the entirety of the Pizzaplex, and the source of that attack shifted. How did the Mimic re-influence the Pizzaplex? Through Gregory. All these attacks were meant to get rid of the Nexus software, but the Mimic was never successful. We asked and answered a lot of questions in this video, but Ruin still has so many more questions to answer. One of the biggest ones for us to still tackle is the endings. Which endings in Security Breach and Ruin are the real ones? This answer will sadly have to wait for the next video, so make sure you ring that bell after subscribing to stay notified for when that video is uploaded, because you want to stay up to date for this theory series. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. Comment down below if you have any information that could either prove or disprove this theory. Once again, this is still just a theory, so it can always be disproven later when we learn more information. If you want to talk to my team and I directly, make sure to join our Discord or check out our subreddit. Make sure to check out RemGames live on Twitch, as I stream there every now and then and on special occasions. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.